Hello, and welcome to another episode of Crossing Bridges Talk Show. I'm your host, Larry Montgomery Sr. This is my co-host, Will. Will, introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. This is William Montgomery, and it's a pleasure to be here.
William Montgomery. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, it's our routine. But anyway, okay, this week we want to talk about curses and blessings. And got a couple of videos, they're short, 3 minutes at the most. Let me first tell you about one of the resources we're using in this conversation, and that's from a book that I've written uh, entitled, let's see here. Oh, all right, that looks accurate. Okay.
Okay.
It's available on Amazon and also on my website, theauthorscorner.online. So let me run the commercial real quick, and then we'll get into
IHS in his service. The Eternal Revenue Service. Here on earth, there's an internal revenue service. We have a 1040 form that's filled out every year. It's used to determine what, if anything, we may owe or be entitled to be reimbursed for from the common good for the cost of operating our government. Pay your taxes. IRS is where we annually reconcile our worth, our existence, or earnings and wages. But what about in heaven? The Eternal Revenue Service. Here is the In His Service return form. Find out what is expected before your entry invitation call comes. Read In His Service by Minister Larry Montgomery, Sr., available at theauthorscorner.online or email montgomerybusiness@hotmail.com.
Okay, not sure if the sound came across like I wanted it, but we'll have to work on that. Now, as background for the topic, let's see what I have here.
The three spiritual laws. We are all governed by laws. Right now there is a political battle going on over who is going to be the lawmakers. There are other laws that affect us, too. There is the law of gravity and the law of momentum. An example of those laws is the story of the guy who jumped out of a plane and his parachute wouldn't open. He was struggling with it as he was falling, trying to open it up. As he struggled with it, he saw a guy flying up toward him from the ground. As they passed, he yelled, "Hey, do you know anything about parachutes?" The guy yells back, "No." Do you know anything about propane stoves? Those kinds of laws affect us every day. Break the law of gravity or the law of momentum or any of the other physical laws that governs our planet, and you will suffer for it. There is also the Levitical law in the Bible. Those are the laws that God gave Moses to pass on to his people. The Ten Commandments are a part of the Levitical law. When you think of these laws, you can substitute God's will instead of law, and it may make it easier to understand. Instead of the 10 Commandments, think of it as 10 things that are God's will. And the Levitical law cannot be summed up with one thing. The entire law is summed up in a single command: love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no harm to its neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfillment of the law. Romans 13:10. So, basically, the Levitical law has to do with God's will. If you willfully go against God's will, you are in rebellion and will suffer the consequence of separation from God and His blessing. But, if you love God and express that love to God through obedience to His known will in your life, that love covers a multitude of imperfections. Jesus paid for our sins with His blood, so keeping the law doesn't justify us. But having a desire to do God's will and walking in obedience because of our love for Him, fulfills the law. The law of life and death. The wages of sin. The law of the increase. Give and I will give back to you. The law of the harvest. You reap what you sow. They can sprout into a harvest of blessing for you. Life is good when you keep them. Let's put Jesus first.
Okay, now, you might wonder why we started with that. Because we're talking about curses and we're talking about blessings. Some people may be confused when we talk about blessings and curses. Now, there's an entire discussion on what a blessing is and what a curse is. So let me start the conversation with you, Will. What would be an example of a blessing to you?
Having another day on this earth.
Okay, that's good. Any others that aren't so deep?
Family. I mean, that's deep too. Uh, I mean, there's so many different blessings that, sometimes we look over. We overlook them, even though they're staring us in the face every day. And, you know, like I said, there's so many. I can't name any right at the moment other than those two. That's the most prominent.
Mhm.
Um, but so forgive me, anybody out there that has 10 or 15 on their head right now and they're yelling at the screen. I apologize for coming up with a blank right now, but those are the two most important ones, I think. Family, they're a blessing. For some, they might think otherwise. I'm not that person, but my family's a blessing, and my time on this earth is a blessing. So those are the two that I can come up with right at this moment.
Well, those are obviously very important because the only guarantee that we actually have is death.
Hmm.
And since we didn't bring anything when we got here, we won't be taking anything when we leave here. you know.
Right.
So those of us who find a desire to accumulate or collect a lot of things, just remember when you leave here, somebody else will have hold of that.
Hmm.
It might be the one that you want to have hold of it, and it might be someone else you didn't plan on having hold of it.
Hmm.
But the reason to talk about blessings is, again, as you were saying, there may be 10 or 15 on somebody else's list that are just important to them. Life and death is important. Being able to chew solid food can be important to someone who can't. Being able to walk, in a straight line, as opposed to in a wheelchair. A lot of people look at that as a blessing. But then now, on the other hand, the fact that this person may be in a wheelchair still has life. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say which one is better, but, you have to deal with it yourself.
Hmm.
And they deal with it. And God makes a way, you know. You may look back and say, look, wow, I really wouldn't be struggling like that there, but, you know, one man's struggle is another man's victory. you
Hmm.
know,
Sure.
and so God has a purpose for us all. It's just that we have to realize that if we focus on Him, uh, whatever He had in mind for us, it'll be easy for Him to fulfill it,
Hmm.
and easy for us to understand. Well, this is my blessing, as opposed to assuming, well, I don't have hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank, so I'm always struggling. But you're eating every day.
Hmm.
So how much of a struggle is it? Oh, well, I'm working. I got to work. I got to work hard. And there's a problem with working.
Hmm.
Because there are a lot of people out here don't have a job. You
Hmm.
know, are they eating, not eating? You're not worried about it. But, it is a question, if you find yourself in that situation, you want to answer too. We talked about in the little clip about three spiritual laws: the law of life and death, the law of the tithe and the law of the harvest. I want to focus in on the law of the tithe because this is a topic that comes to mind on a regular when you church folk. Well, how much should you tithe? Or what is your tithe? You know, your tithe is not only your money, but, you know, your gifts. You know, what am I giving back? Which could include, you know, if you're a singer, you know, singing. You know, yeah, it's great to sing for a profit, but also what's wrong with singing just to uplift someone else's spirit? You know, like coming to church and, you know, in your praise of God, you know, sing. Okay. Giving your time is also, you know, a part of the tithe. You know, I come to church on Sunday between 8 a.m. and 8:45 when the minister comes up and says what he's got to say, and then I'm out the door. But what did you give to the church? You know, I mean, yeah, you were there, but is that your portion for the day? You know, when you really think of it, you know, if you spent a little more time there, you might be of help to somebody, you know, or you might find some help from somebody because you were around long enough for them to interact with you. There's a lot of conversation, and this is probably the meat at this point, about 10%. Now, at one time, 10% of your income was pretty much the focus of what your tithe should be. You know, and not talking about, and this is kind of what the book starts to really delve into. You know, it's not 10% of your net earnings, meaning what you bring home. It's 10% of the gross. Coming off the top, that would be before tax earnings. You know, a lot of people don't see it that way. Say, wow, you know, but under the Old Testament, that was the understanding. If you really looked at the Old Testament and you started to calculate based on what you were living with and earning and whatever, and you find out adding your time, adding the fruits of your labor meaning if you're a farmer and you were growing crops, you know, we're not talking about 10% of what you sold in the marketplace. It's about 10% of what you grew. Then you take out what you sold in the marketplace. So the actual number could come to like 23% of all that you have would make up that 10% that you should be giving back to the church. Under the New Testament, since the law is no longer in play, it's grace, you give what you believe or feel that you should give. Interesting, right? So you come to church, you got $2 in your pocket. Say, well, I'm going to give $1. That's what you purposed in your heart. I'm going to give. That's what I'm going to give. And that's what you give. And God accepts that. It's not a problem. The bottom line is, he's saying, give so that his coffers, his storehouse would have in order for him to give to others. Not like he ain't got, but in order for the church to give to others. And with that, if you don't give and there's nothing in the church, or you're not giving, you could be cursed. No, not could be. You are cursed, okay, by God. Wait, what are you talking about? Oh, God doesn't curse people. Really? Let me put up this last clip. Ready? That's it.
The 3 spiritual laws. We are all governed by laws. Right now there is a political battle going on over who is going to be the lawmakers.
I'm sorry. That is actually the same video.
Mm-hmm.
That's embarrassing. So.
It happens.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, fired the technical director, even if he is working for free. Okay. Let's see. I was going to talk about the law of the tithe.
Mm.
In that the way that law is crafted, God is saying to, in this in the Bible, I don't have the actual scripture because that was in my video, that he allows you to test him in that one particular area. He's saying, if you give, I will give more than you thought you were going to get, shaken down and pressed together. Okay, so you say, well, I gave 10%. I do give my 10%, or whatever it is I give. He's going to give back to you. Okay, more of. And so that's his promise. If you give, I promise I will give you. And I'm allowing you to test me on that. And so at the end of that particular clip, when I finally put it in, which I'll put in now, you'll see that giving to God, to the church, is a good thing. Okay? You with me, man? You're not going to fade out now. You're okay.
Nope.
Looking a little, so, but the other side of that, which we're talking about, curses. If you don't give, you'll realize that, while you work and make money, it's like you got holes in your pocket. You're constantly working to make money, and you never find yourself with enough. You buy clothes and all that there to look good, but they don't keep you warm. These are things that are stated in the Bible, because you're not doing what he's asked you to do. So you're suffering. You don't see it that way. You just say, well, look, I just got to work harder to get enough money to do the things that I want to do. But I'm working, and I never get there, because he's already put a hole in your pocket. You're not giving anything back to me. You can't keep what you got. Okay. Any thoughts before we go any further?
I mean, you got to be careful, with your blessings. I mean, the Bible is there as a roadmap for us to follow and, take heed to the messages that's in there. And if you know it and you follow it, then you have a better chance of being successful in life. Because, like I said, that's the roadmap. And if you don't, you tend to wind up hitting those pitfalls that you could have avoided, and which wind up being those curses that the Bible is trying to help you prevent to running into. So,
right. And so the whole point of this conversation, and this for public consumption, is that sometimes we get blessings and curses confused. Okay? For example, you have a job. I'm not talking about you, but I'm just saying you have a job and you're doing well. Things are going smooth. And your partner doesn't have a job. Now, on the one hand, you may want to encourage them to get a job because, they're sitting around doing nothing and getting fat and generating all these extra expenses, light bill, phone bill, all that kind of stuff. But you may just want to encourage them to get a job because they do have something to offer. Okay? That's one hand. The other hand is, in your mind, because you're working and making money, they have an obligation to work and make money. This is my partner. I joined with them. I'm talking in marriage. Not talking, playhouse. In marriage, I've already committed to the fact that I'm going to do all I can. Said, good times or bad times. So if you're working, fine. If you're not working, I'm still with you. We're going to work together. If it becomes a real problem in God's mind, he'll fix it. One way or the other, he'll fix it. So you don't have to worry about it. Just trust in God. But we have this problem. This is the one I want to talk about. Because we've made up in our mind what you should do. Because we're saying, look, you're not holding up your end of the stick. And I have a problem with that. See, we just got the whole thing twisted. God blessed you with the income. You may have the only income. You may just have more income, whatever way it is. And so now you go about berating your partner and hurting them, their feelings, because they're not in the same position you're in. You may have your opinion that, well, I'm a college graduate and I'm a doctor and you're a college graduate and you're a doctor, so we all should be out here doing operations and making a lot of money. Maybe you have a college graduate, maybe you're a college graduate, and you want to volunteer, save animals. Okay, but you got that degree. When your partner is sitting there saying, oh, no, you could be doing better, because that's in their mind. If you go to God and say, look, I'm trying to understand this, Lord. Help me to help my unbelief. Okay. I believe that we're together and I'm making money. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, whatever. And they're not making money. And I don't think they're doing what they should be doing. So I am the one who is actually cursing myself. I'm blessed with the income. I'm blessed with the money. But by me going out of my way to make the partner do what I think they should do is backfiring. Because the partner is now suffering because they believe they're doing all that they can do. They believe they're doing the right thing. Sometimes, just because you have a degree in medicine doesn't mean that that's what God has called you to do. That's my point. And so, yeah, you should be encouraged to also go to God and ask him, well, what would you have me to do? How do am I doing the right thing? If I am, if I'm not, please let your spirit lead, guide, and direct me into what I should be doing. And if you trust in him, he will. So that's the point of this conversation, to understand that just because you're blessed and somebody, maybe your partner, whatever, wife, husband, whatever, may not be as blessed as you, doesn't mean that you have license to put them down because they're not doing what you think they should be doing. Is that clear?
I mean, I see it as, it's a complicated situation because,
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you have, well, I think it starts with knowing your partner. Some people have had discussions with their partners. They come up, they map out their life. They say, this is our 5-year plan. This is our 10-year plan. This is my hopes. This is my dreams. And I'm not saying everybody does that, but some people do. But you have some people that may not be honest about what they want to do. Like, yeah, I want to do this for the next 10 years. And I only want to do this for the next 2 weeks. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to do it for the next 10 years. You know what I'm saying? So, it's like the bare minimum, you got to be open and honest with your counterpart, because that can cause that curse, because you're thinking, well, this is what you told me you want to do. And I'm trying to push you towards your goal, what you told me to do. And now I'm the bad guy because I'm way off the mark, but I think I'm on the mark. So I'm headstrong, gung-ho, going towards it, but I'm dead wrong. And I don't know why I'm dead wrong. And then it's like, hey, why am I wrong? Why are you mad at me? I'm just trying to help you get to your goal. It's like, no, that's not what I want to do. Well, this is the first time I'm hearing that. So like we as people need to realize, hey, you know what? it pays to be honest with our counterparts because we don't know what kind of curses we are starting to generate because you got good people out there trying to do good things for you and want the best for you. But like what they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Just because I think I'm doing good doesn't mean I'm doing any good. And like I said, pray about it, get God involved, but you really have to be honest with your mate, and I mean, there's no other way around it. That's the only way to you and them having happiness together is having that open communication and trusting and believing and having a strong faith in God.
Well, you made a couple of good points. I understand what you're saying. It's all good. Communication clearly is important. Sometimes communication doesn't come across or it's not clear in your mind that you need to talk about this until it's brought to your attention.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I'm doing the right thing. I get up every morning and do so and so, but I'm not making enough money. I'm not making as much money as I wish I could, or everybody else I know is making, whatever, for whatever the circumstance may be. Your partner says, "Oh, well, look, the bills are getting there, and I'm not really seeing a way that we're gonna make it because you need to kind of hold up your end of the stick here."
Mm-hmm.
Well, now we can have an earnest conversation as to why we're in this position, what we see that could be a solution to that. Now, the other part of that conversation, which point that you made, one partner pushing the other one. I wanted to substitute the word pushing for encouraging.
Yeah.
Because it's a whole different attitude
Mm-hmm.
behind it, and it's a whole different methodology behind encouraging than pushing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us understand that. We
Yeah.
understand pushing. I'm pushing you to get a job every morning. I'm called, get up, get a job, go get up, it's pushing. Encouragement is more like, well, what's your plans for the day? You know, uh, you know, uh, and why is that your plan? Okay, and okay, well, we'll talk about it. How it went later on.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day. Right? Oh well, at the end of the day, oh well, I got tied up watching Maury on TV, and then I watched a few reruns, and they were so exciting. Well, so you understand, like next week, we're not going to have any beer money because the electric bill had went up. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
you're good with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when there's no beer money next week, conversation might change a little bit. Well, I didn't sit around all day watching Maury. I figured I'd go down to the Home Depot and stand outside and see if I can pick up, some day work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, whatever it might be. I decided to actually pick the right lotto numbers and, be good. Whatever it might be. But the point is, and the only point from my perspective in this conversation, is to encourage those who are blessed to understand that that's your blessing. And the one thing about blessings is it's not about you. You see? Oh, I can sing. But if you're not singing to anyone, you can't be a blessing to anyone. You're blessed to be a blessing. You see? He don't bless you for you. That's a wasted blessing. I could at least get 2 people blessed out of every blessing that I give from God's perspective. I blessed you, and you're happy, you're thanking me, and you're going around and telling people about me because I blessed you, and you're going around blessing them because they get to experience in one way, shape, or form the blessing that God gave you. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I use singing as easy. I'm a billionaire. If I'm not contributing to the poor in some way, shape, or fashion, then I'm not being a blessing. Oh, well, I hire people and they work for me. That's a part of the blessing, but it's not the only part available to you. Why would you not want to partake of every avenue that he's blessed you to be a blessing in? Because the blessing that he gave you has allowed you to be able to stand there in front of all these avenues and be seen as a potential blessing. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to make that point, and that, again, as fathers talking to fathers, black men talking to black men, older guys talking to younger guys, it's just food for thought. Because we can have the conversation about, and we'll probably, if we do a part 2 on this here, about generational curses. Now, we just mentioned curses, but they're generational curses. Meaning, you take the same attitude from me, my generation, and you start to filter it through the next generation, which would be you, literally, and you to your children, literally, and we're all doing the same thing. So you say, well, what's an example of a generational curse? I don't know what you're talking about, Larry. Generational curse might be the fact that the family unit is never solidified. Well, God talked about created marriage for families. Now, a family is not just a husband and a wife. That's not a family. That's a married couple. Family is a husband and a wife and children, whether you adopted them, found them, or birthed them. Okay? Now, if you stole them from somebody, that ain't your family. Okay? And you're a kidnapper couple. That's what it is. Yeah. A couple with a kidnapped kid. So let's just make that clear. But the point is that the generational curse is that I'm a mother and I don't have a husband. I got a baby daddy. I might have more than one baby daddy because I can't seem to figure out what I need to do to get married and for that husband to stay with me. Sometimes we are our own worst enemy. Yeah, people do marry the wrong person. That's true. And trusting in God, going to God, asking him, look, I'm not seeing this, God. It looked good yesterday, but today, when she woke up, I looked, and said, oh no, I can't live with this one. But anyway, he'll work that part out because you started out with the right frame of heart. Your heart was in the right frame, okay? And you're committed to it as he would have you to commit. So he'll fix that for you. But then again, back to the single parent household, whether it be man, father, or the mother. It's not a family yet. It's a part of a family. And so the curse is you're a single parent, the child of a single parent who raised a child who becomes a single parent. So that's 3 times we missed the mark of being a family unit. Okay? For whatever reason. Sometimes you can figure it out because you realize, well, I smoke and everybody I want to be with doesn't smoke. Okay, that's not that hard to figure out. Stop smoking or only marry people who smoke. Fix that problem. But it's what your children see is where the generational connection is. Oh, well, I always tell my kids to do the right thing. But we've had this conversation. My father said to me, oh, smoking's bad for you. Pass me another Viceroy. All right, so mixed message. Did he realize it was a mixed message? No, he didn't. Was I had enough courage to say, Dad, you're saying this out of one side of your mouth and this is coming out of the other side of your mouth? No, I like all of my teeth in my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right, that work. Okay, and so that's it. No, I mean, would he have hit me? No, probably not. Uh, would he have been felt embarrassed? Probably. Um, would he have thought that, well, my child is really wise? Maybe. He probably would have thought, this wise ass kid, you know,
Go to your room.
crack you across the face. Ever say something like that to me again? So, but the point is clear. You know, sometimes we talk out of both sides of our mouth at the same time. And then there's another point, which is subtle, but it's real. I could sit in the living room talking to my friend, and you, my son, walk in the room, and me and my friend are reminiscing about things. So you sit and you listen, you hear the story, and you get up and you walk away. This is in your mind. Here's a sample story. Oh yeah, man, I was down to the park the other day, was playing ball, and these fools came up here from out of town. They thought they could do us. So we started playing, fool, bumped me, got a little rough, so I pulled my cap, I mean, I didn't really kill him, I just shot him in the butt. And yeah, I'm all that. Reality was, you didn't do anything, but that was the story you gave your friend while you were sitting in there talking. And that's the story that your child heard. Now, he walks away and thinks, well, Dad's all that, because he pulled his gun and he... And so the first time there's an opportunity for your child to get a gun, what does he do?
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with having a gun. It's just the reason why you got it. You don't understand why you have that, okay? Because you can't undo a bullet that you let go.
Okay.
It's going to go where it's going to go, do what it's going to do, and the consequences is all on you.
Mm-hmm.
Just to kind of finish this point, my father would, the story I just gave about, I bust a cap and so on, so, he talked like that all the time. And so, I said, you got a gun? Yeah. Okay. He was on his dying bed in the hospital. I said, Dad, the doctor told me that you're not going to go home. You're going to have to go to a nursing home. Okay? Now, I'm going to have to go back and clean out your apartment. Where's your gun? I don't have one. Now I'm looking at him, I'm saying, you lied to me all these years. I mean, all I could do is kind of like smile in the back of my head. Really? But, this is what parents do, and they don't realize that there's a consequence for this, because I'm painting a picture of me as being something that I'm really not, and never was. And my son is walking around here thinking that, I want to be like my father, so I got to get a gun and bust somebody and bust a cap in about a fool. So we need to understand that sometimes it's not also what we do, talking out of both sides of our mouth at the same time, but the stories that we tell.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, it would be cool if he had, I'm telling my friend all this kind of stuff, and then when he leaves, I bring you back in and say, I was just lying to him. I was trying to make myself look good. Oh, okay, I understand. It was just grown folks fooling around. Yeah, that's basically what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't walk out the room thinking, I got to get a gun so I could be like Dad, and bust a cap in somebody's butt.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I just want to make sure that I made that point and made it clear, that it's not only the things that we do as parents, but also a lot of times the things that we say as parents.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that we don't do it. That doesn't mean that's a bad thing, but we just need to understand that there are other aspects that could come out because we did it that way.
Hmm.
So, do you have any comments you want to make?
I mean, that's definitely like I can see how stories like that can affect a person's livelihood. You know, like if you hear these stories day in, day out, you know, even once a week, twice a week, you know, it's like, oh, well, that's how I'm supposed to be because I want to be like mom or I want to be like dad or I want to be like Uncle Joe, you know what I'm saying? Cousin Ray Ray, you know, I want to be like them. They're cool. You
Hmm.
know, and you hear all these stories about how, you know, people respect them and you know, it's like, well, I want to be respected. I want people to be, you know, look at me like that. And then you're trying to emulate these stories that you hear as a child, and some of them are probably made up, and some of them are probably some stories you probably shouldn't have heard because they should have been like, oh, we got little people in the room. Hey, you know, go outside and play, you know,
Hmm.
while grown folks talk, you know, because it's a grown folks conversation, you know, and it's just we as adults have to be mindful of like those conversations and the stories that we're telling because like I said, the people around us that look up to us, they're taking it as the gospel. Like, oh, that's oh you that's how you do it? Oh,
Hmm.
okay. I want to be just like that. And the next thing you know, you see them on the news and it's like, I can't believe they did that. Where'd they get
Hmm.
that from? You got it from you. You know what I'm saying? You know? But yeah. And it's sad, but you know, stuff like that does happen and people really don't realize how that came about. But you know, you got these kids that watch cartoons and they think that that's real.
Yeah.
You got real people talking about stuff. They gonna think that that's real. You
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
So yeah.
You be like the road runner chasing that,
Wile E.
what,
Coyote.
right, like Coyote,
Well, Wile E. Coyote chasing after the road runner. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's just at the road runner and run into that brick wall or something like that.
Hmm.
Just quickly learned as a child, it don't work like that.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
anyway, that was TV. It was a cartoon. I understand that.
Hmm.
But when I hear my mother or my father say things about they did this, they that, whatever, you're like, oh, that's real,
Hmm.
you know? And yeah, okay, it may be real, but did I want you to know that at that age?
Hmm.
Did I want you to think that that's the right thing to do? Because there may have been consequences that you didn't even know about,
Hmm.
you know? It may be living a lie, I mean, listen, you commit a crime and then you kind of get away with it, you think, and you're bragging about what you did because you're bragging,
Hmm.
and somebody overhears you, whether it be a child or another adult, guess what?
Hmm.
You just exposed yourself,
Yeah.
and there'll probably be a consequence coming back at you. You know,
Hmm.
it was all fun and games until you open your mouth and tell the truth.
Hmm.
I'm not saying tell a lie, but I'm saying you got to
Yeah.
watch what comes out of your mouth. You
Yep.
know. Okay. So, unless you have a final comment, let's make your pitch, and we'll close out.
We would like to extend the opportunity for our viewers to recommend topics for us to discuss. If you would like to, please hit us up in the comment section. And if you would like to be a panelist on the show, also hit us up in the comment section. We look forward to hearing from you guys.
Okay, great. And we will see you again next week, God willing, and the creek don't